Welcome to the Real Estate Show on KMED, July 11th, 2015. Pete Belcaster and Joe Brett, the real estate guys, with you. You know, we get together with you once a week here on KMED to talk about all sorts of issues facing real estate in Southern Oregon. Joe and I are both brokers at John L. Scott in Southern Oregon, so, you know, we deal with it every day in our life, don't we? I mean, and lots going on, and well, we're glad you're along with us today. We have got a terrific guest, Jim Remley, who is the managing principal broker at John L. Scott. So, like, he's the guy who really runs the show. Joe and I, we're just like, you know, we're just brokers.
He's nice enough to let us hang our license in his
what
brokerage.
it is, yeah, with a lot of others.
Which activates us to do things to help people, yes.
Yeah, he elevates us is what he does. Anyway, Jim is here. Nice to have you to the show. Welcome to the Real Estate Show.
Thank you so much.
Well, tell us, I mean, I've been at John L. Scott now for a little over almost 3.5 years now, and wow, I mean, just 3.5 years, the market, as we talk about, you know, we've been doing this 6 years, but you've been around a little longer than that, but things have really changed, haven't they, from a few years ago? Tell us about what you've experienced.
Well, it's interesting. I've been in the business 26 years now, started in 1989, and I actually arrived in Medford about 6 years ago, about right when you guys started the show, actually. And so I've seen a complete turnaround in the market. I mean, what we're doing today is amazing. Our office, just as an example, we had 301 new transactions just last month.
In the month?
In the month, and that's John L. Scott, Medford, and Ashland. Mm-hmm. We're the second most productive John L. Scott office in the entire system out of 130 offices. Second most productive offices in the state of Oregon of all offices. So amazing turnaround. And our biggest month ever was actually this year as well, where we had 330 sales in 1 month. So it's just the market's just booming.
It's more than you even think, isn't it? I mean, you look at the stats out of that. Well, it's not because our economy is booming. I mean, so what do you think is driving all of this? I mean, we try to figure this out every week with guests, and we haven't figured it out yet of what's actually driving so much. And what do you think it is?
Well, I think there's a lot of pent-up demand in the market. We've seen a lot of people stay on the sidelines for 4 or 5 years, not doing anything with real estate. And the average American over the entire country sells their home every 2 to 6 years. That's since National Association of Realtors has been tracking it since 1968. Wow. And actually what's happening now, if they study this every year, the average American has held their home 12 years now.
12 years?
So they're way overdue for a housing change. And you know what causes housing change is people have some level of pain. They stop liking living where they're at and they want to move on. They want a lifestyle change. Imagine delaying that for 6 years and then finally being able to sell. Yeah. And a lot of people were underwater. Frankly, maybe if they bought in 2005, 2006, they couldn't sell until just now as prices are allowing them to come over the market or over water, so to speak, so they can sell and actually have equity and buy their next home. And that's what we're seeing, this huge kind of pent-up release of demand.
You're seeing a rebound kind of still.
Rebound, yes.
But it's taken, even though it's been 5 or 6 years, it's still rebounding, you're saying.
It is. I mean, this year, we just got the market stats from our local SOMLS, the Southern Oregon MLS system, and we saw that prices are up from January to June through June 30th, 12.5%. So that's prices rising about 2% a month.
2% a month.
That won't continue. That won't continue.
You're going to freak Pete out first day.
I always get it. I get accused of being the negative one of the show.
That's
okay,
right.
But you know, it seemed like in the run-up to 2007 and 8 when the crash came, that it was double-digit increases and 2% a month that were on and on and on it went. And it's not sustainable. Does that concern you?
Well, we have a different market than we did then. There's a lot of bubble talk. Is this another real estate bubble starting to occur? NAR tracks us. They study this. We trust our National Association of Realtor organization to guide us through this. Here's the difference between 2005 and 6 and now is that what caused that market run up back then was subprime markets.
Right.
So we had people loaning money to people. Easy credit, easy money. Anybody could get a loan. A lot of liar loans. You come in, you say you're making this much money. You're not really making that much money. You get a loan for any amount you want. That's not true today. Today we have extremely stringent credit standards, higher down payment thresholds. People have to really go through an enormous qualification process. Lenders are much more stringent on appraisals. So the market's different. Really, it's a supply-demand issue right now in pricing. And I'll tell you the number one reason why prices are rising. People think it's just market demand, and it is. But what's causing it is a lack of supply.
Lack of supply. Sure.
In like any market in the world, it's supply and demand. When you don't have enough supply, and there's a demand for the product, prices go up. And so what's happened and what's causing this lack of supply that we've never seen in the market before, this is the lowest supply I've ever seen in 25 years.
Right now in Jackson County.
In this market,
what is it? Just tell people, what is that? Okay.
What's causing that is builders have been on the sidelines.
Right.
A lot of builders got blown out during the 2005-06 cycle. Not then, but in 2008-09 cycle, they got blown out. They lost all their money. A lot of them went bankrupt. And so we have now just starting to see builders come back and start building homes. And we have to get about up to 1.5 million housing starts in this country to get back to normal. Right now, we're about 600,000. So we have a long way to go in terms of new construction to fill that demand. So all that demand is falling on our existing supply. And that's what's causing the run-up.
And that's not keeping up with it, is it?
We're certainly a microcosm of that national situation right here locally. And we've got a lot of buyers that went through some bad loans and some bad times. They're wiser, more savvy. The lending standards are more amenable to long-term success for loans. They're coming back. That's where some of that pent-up demand is too. They want to get back in and be homeowners again, and kind of waited their turn, and they're just chomping at the bit to get in.
And we're starting to see what we call the boomerang buyers. Those are homeowners that lost their home in a distressed sale 3, 4, 5 years ago, now begin to qualify for homes again. They had to go through a cycle on doing a short sale or distress sale. Now they're able to qualify for a loan and enter the market. And those folks that have been homeowners hate renting. They don't want to be renters. They want to be homeowners.
Especially in a tight, hard-to-find rental market.
Absolutely.
Well, it was, I think, a couple of weeks ago, Lennox Scott, who was the grandson of John L. Scott himself. Right. He really did exist, by the way.
Yes.
Well, he was down and talked to the agents at John L. Scott, and I went to his
summer tour
to his event, and then we actually interviewed him, which we'll play that here shortly one of these times here, but. What he was saying, which surprised me, because we asked him about the market and what it was doing in the West Coast, and how that was going. And he thinks this is going to continue. I was surprised. He thinks it's going to continue, Jim, for years down the road.
Yeah. Well, if you
before it adjusts, I guess, before there's an adjustment.
Yeah, we're not going to see prices in double-digit territory for long. I mean, that's going to adjust, no doubt. But as far as not going back into another market correction in the real estate industry, that's what Lennox believes, that we are in a positive market cycle for the next 5 to 7 years. And so he's very bullish on the market. You always think realtors are bullish on the market, but we're a lot more realistic than we ever used to be.
Yeah.
And we have to be as organization owners. But I will tell you that the one thing that he brought to mind for all of us, I think, in that room that when we were with him last week, is the supply of homes in the Northwest. And
it's shrinking.
It's shrinking. We just got our stats. We have 2.3 months of supply in this current market here in Jackson County.
2.3, okay.
2.3. What that equates to is, and what that means, by the way, is if you stop taking listings, if every realtor in town decided to go on vacation and we all stopped taking listings, our entire supply of homes will be exhausted in 2.3 months.
2.3 months, okay.
Now, you might say, well, what does that mean? Well, the reality is that a healthy market has 6 months of inventory at any given time. When you have 2.3 months, it's almost as if you're very close to sold out. And so what we're seeing because of that is the increase in prices.
Is the increase in prices. Have you been seeing in certain price categories multiple offers? I mean, where's the kind of the price point? I don't know, each community is different and each neighborhood is different, but where are you seeing that price point at where things are crazy, where you're getting multiple offers? Is that out there still?
Yeah, definitely. At John L. Scott, we study the price bands, and if you study the price bands between 100 and 300,000, we're actually close to a 1 month supply of inventory in those markets. I was going to say,
that's even less than the higher end markets. Okay,
so
wow.
As a buyer, you're definitely going to have to walk into almost every listing and expect you're going to be competing on that listing with other buyers and multiple offers. Now, sometimes buyers are concerned right now, and they're saying, am I going to overpay for a home? Am I going to be wishing I hadn't made this investment? What we can tell you is that for the foreseeable future, prices are going to rise. Right. And if we had a buyer that waited, and maybe in January that was thinking about buying, but waited until now in June, they're going to pay now 12.5% more than they would have. And the way to think about the waiting game is this: is that for every month you're waiting, and if it's costing you 2% on a $200,000 home, that's $4,000 or more it's going to cost you for that same exact home in this market. Now, will that last forever? No, but it's going to last for a while. And we have to.
I was going to say, it seems like it's going to last for a while.
Yeah.
I don't know. You can't do it.
And
with
if you're on the threshold
2.3
with your buying power, your purchasing power, you're looking at a lesser home now, 6 months from right now. Yeah,
absolutely. And the other thing that people often forget, and they should factor into the equation if they're a home buyer, about why they should buy in this market as opposed to maybe waiting, is interest rates. Remember that you have the power to be the beneficiary of a 40-year low in interest rates. So at 4%, which is about where we're hovering, you are so much better off to take a loan now, even if you're paying a little bit more than you'd hope to pay, right? We can never time the market perfectly, but if you buy that home, you're going to have now a 30-year mortgage at 4%. I guarantee you this is going to be one of the lowest interest rate levels we'll see in our lifetimes again.
All right.
Lock that in for 30 years. Don't waste that opportunity.
Do you think that these interest rates, if they start rising, that this selling binge is going to end?
Actually, studies that have been done over and over and over again by our organization at John L. Scott and the National Association of Realtors says that as interest rates rise, there's always a flash and a surge of activity rather than the reverse, what you might expect.
Really?
Yeah, because buyers are afraid they're going to go even higher. So they kind of come back to the market in droves. Now, at some point, that would mitigate, of course.
Sure.
But in the short term, from going maybe between 4 and 5%, definitely you'd see a surge in the market even more so today.
I think it's safe to say that once that ship sails from these 4% interest rates, you'll not hear us talking about that topic again on this program. By the time that happens again, the show will be long gone, and so will most of us. That's a 40-year low. That's what that means.
That's right.
Well, if we go back to interest rates, when I bought my first house was 17% interest rate. Back in the late 70s, early 80s.
1990, I paid 10.5%, and I was thrilled to get it. I was thrilled to get it. Yeah.
Well, if it continues, it's going to have to continue, I think, for the market to continue to roll along, which it seems like it is. But if the lending is true the way as you talk about, which certainly seems to be more strident. I'm trying to do a refinance now. I told you that, Joe. I'm trying. I turned it all in. It's all out there, for them to see if we can get a finance. When you're self-employed, it's a little bit different than trying to get refinance. My 10-year variable rate. It ended. I had a great run for 10 years.
They don't do it just on your signature, Pete?
I thought they should make it extend it for another 10 years, but Chase would not do that. What about foreclosures that you see? Because we've been telling people, we've been following along, and we had HUD Home Story, Diana Yates was a part of our shows for a number of years, and HUD Homes just kind of disappeared. I mean, there's very few of those, but HomePath, 16 new ones came on this week. I watched that every week, and there were 14 new ones, foreclosed properties last week. What in the world's going on here? There was nothing for a long time.
Well, you got to look at, there's going to be surges to this, foreclosures as far as the national trend, they're declining. And the reason they're declining as a national trend is that more and more people are getting above water in their homes.
Just the valuations have come up, so you're just not underwater.
Yeah, you're not underwater.
Okay.
So people can sell. I will tell you that we studied this as a group at SOMLS going back from January 1st to June 30th. The percentage of normal sales that were not distressed sales is 86.9% so far this year. So only about
86%.
86.9, almost 87%. Only 3% of them were short. Another 10.1% were actually a foreclosure property. But you will see that, I bet, cut in half by the next 6 months. In our market and in every market across the country, there's a declining.
So you think that's going to continue to decline? So people who are, even though there's little blips here, like there's like 30 new ones here in the market, it's just a blip. It's just a blip. See, a blip, Jim's a blip is 30 homes. It's a blip. It's a blip in the market.
We sold 300. That's a blip.
It's kind of thing. Well, I hope we do get out of those.
That's a day in the office.
That's a day in the office. That's a day.
Yeah. Well, the thing about listings, I guess, is the biggest thing is that where are they going to come from? Yeah. If people right now in this valley, it seems like it could get even tighter, which we're going to put more pressure on prices. Is that possible?
Well, what we hope is going to happen is that we have the seller kind of holding back for a long time. Sellers have been waiting for prices to come up.
Right.
Now that they've hit the levels that they have, we're hoping that sellers will start to release inventory and say, okay, I'm now ready to enter the market because now I can pay off the existing loan that I have a little bit of equity to buy my next home. We're starting to see that. We need more of it.
Well, I wonder what's going to happen with those prices. Say in Jacksonville, Ashland. I mean, those prices, sellers seem to be really wanting to get a lot more than maybe they're even worth. You've seen that around. And that's what I find, don't you, Joe? I mean, we talk. I want to get $500,000. I can get this because I know the market's a seller's market, right?
Yeah.
How do you temper that?
Well, you have to look at it. It is a seller's market. Sellers do have pricing power right now. And before I answer that question, let me tell you that if you are a seller and you're thinking that, I wonder how much equity I have now as opposed to a year ago, talk to a John L. Scott agent. You've got two on the air right now. You've got Pete and you've got Joe. They'd be happy to come out and talk to you about pricing and talk to you about what the market might bear for your home today. But how do you arrive at a price is always going to be that you have to expect that the buyer is going to not just look at your house, they're going to look at probably 12 to 15 homes.
Right. And I want you to we're going to have a break coming up here, but I want you to think about how you price a home, what you tell people, because that's probably the number one question, isn't it? What's my place worth? The Real Estate Show here on KMED, July 11th of 2015. Pete and Joe, the Real Estate Guys, with you. Don't forget, you can watch these shows at youtube.com/Real Estate Show Oregon or our website at realestateshoworegon.com. We got lots more to talk about with Jim Remley from John L. Scott. We are coming right back. The Real Estate Show rolls on here on KMED, July 11th of 2015. Pete and Joe, the Real Estate Guys, with you. Don't forget a TV show coming up on Tuesday, live July the 14th at 6 o'clock on the RVTV cable channels in Jackson and Josephine County. We'll be along with a Market Watch show. We'll update you on all sorts of things happening in the real estate market around, from lending to home building and buying and selling properties. As you hear, and today here with Jim Remley, the managing principal broker at John L. Scott, things are really crazy. There's a lot of stuff going on. I always got the question, Jim, that people ask you, how's the real estate market? Everybody asks you, how's real estate, and what is the answer? That I'm curious as to the answer. What do you give for the answer for that? Because everybody has a different answer for that question.
Well, my answer is always the same. It is, are you a buyer? Are you an investor? Or are you a seller?
That's exactly the right question. I add, are you a renter? I put that in there too. Are you a renter? Because that's a whole nother world, and we saw people over the years who lost their homes, rented, got out of, were able to go back and buy again, and well, that's just part of the natural part of the business.
A very interesting study by NAR. They do it every year of the average net worth of a renter versus the average net worth of a homeowner. Have you seen that?
Yes. Yeah. It's like, if this isn't the number one reason to purchase a home, is that the average was $5,000 for a renter, and $194,000, I believe it was, you owned a home. That's your net worth.
Yep.
That's a remarkable, stunning figure, really.
Absolutely.
But anyway, we're talking with Jim Remley here on the Real Estate Show today. He's a managing principal broker at John L. Scott in Medford and Ashland offices, and what a busy place, that's for sure. But the question, Jim, is, I'm sure every agent always is asked, what's my home worth? And in pricing a home, I know you spend a lot of time with agents in meetings that I've been to, hammering that part of, you got to do it right, and you got to be smart, and you got to know what the heck you're doing, right?
Absolutely. Today, it's super, super important to get your home priced right the first time. You've got a kind of a first look that happens with realtors in a digital age that never happened before. So what happens is, as soon as a listing is launched, we call it a John L. Scott, into the MLS system and on the John L. Scott's marketing engine, all the buyers in the marketplace, virtually all buyers in the marketplace, are turned on to a automated search engine, meaning that as new listings enter the market, they're sent the listing. And when they're sent the listing, they all kind of collectively take a look at the listing together. The second it hits, and they all decide, is this overpriced? Do I want to see it?
And they make their decision really quickly, don't they?
Within a second.
It's a whole new world. Yeah.
So they look at the picture, they look at the price. Do I want to see it? If I do, I'm going to go see it. And that's why, when you look at our stats at John L. Scott, 50% of all John L. Scott listings sell in the first 30 days. And those listings that sell are the ones that are priced to market. The ones that don't, maybe there's a pricing challenge there.
What happens to your opinion on it, when you have sellers who say, I'm going to start way up here, I'm going to start here at this price, and it doesn't sell, How do you get them to come down? You just follow the market, don't you?
Well,
what does that do to them at the end, I guess?
You can chase the market down. I always tell people when they're considering that, that doesn't work like it used to. You never have a second chance at a first impression.
Yeah.
The way the market works now is all those, what we call the backlog of buyers, looks at it the first day the home hits the market. If you don't attract their attention, then you're only looking at the buyers that trickle in after that, that are new to the market every week after that. Doesn't mean you can't sell your home if you didn't sell it in the first 30 days. What you do is you reposition it. And we all make mistakes. Realtors make mistakes, appraisers make mistakes, homeowners make mistakes when they list their home. What we suggest is that, listen, if your home didn't hit the right price point, retake a look at the competition. Maybe even go out and act as a buyer and look at all the homes that the buyers are looking at. Find out what buyers are saying about your house. A good agent will get feedback from every buyer. They'll also find out what the buyers bought instead of your home, and so you can say, why did they buy that one instead of mine? And by looking at that and kind of looking at it from a buyer's eyes, you can reposition. And I'm going to tell you something that a lot of people don't understand about our mobile world, if you don't mind.
Sure.
And that is that the mobile pricing is super important. People don't understand this.
What do you mean by mobile pricing? Okay. I've not heard that.
That's a great question.
I've not heard that before.
50% of all real estate searches today are done on a mobile device. That's a smartphone, iPad, something like that, your notebook. Because of that, buyers aren't typing in a price. What they're doing is they're just picking a price either from a rolling choice, like a real roller, or maybe it's a sliding scale that they pick a price. And they're going to be doing that in $5,000 and $10,000 increments. So sellers need to understand that pricing at $228 makes no sense. You should be at $225. You should be at $220
or $230. Those, but even kind of numbers.
Even numbers, no nines. We don't price at $299.9 anymore. That doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't work.
And let me tell you a secret here. Here's the big secret.
Okay.
The big secret is this: that if you price your home at a major price point, you'll double your showing activity. And here's why. Let's assume for a second that you priced your home at $224.9, just to give an example.
Okay.
Buyers with the mobile technology will then look at homes between $200 and $225. Most buyers, right?
Okay.
If you are at $224.9, then your home will be shown. But what if the buyer went from $225 to $250? You are now outside that zone.
Right.
Better idea, list the home at $225. You'll split the showings, the buyer views, and so you'll catch every buyer looking between $200 and $225 and every buyer looking between $225 and $250.
It's the same way I think I've heard you say, let's say the 300,000 range.
Yeah, absolutely.
You don't put it at $299.
Never.
Because people search from 100 to 200. I do that, 200 to 300.
And we call those major price points.
Okay.
Either $25,000 increments, 25, 50, 100. If you can get to one of those 25,000 point increments, you're much better off in terms of showings.
You talk a lot about that backlog of buyers.
Yes.
What is that actually? Where is that? What is that?
So if you think about all the buyers in the marketplace now in your price point, and let's say you're between $200,000 and $300,000 price range, maybe there's 200 or 300 buyers that are actively looking for homes in that price range, but they haven't found what they want yet. That's and
it's harder now because
very hard.
The inventory is low, so they're still out there looking, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right.
So they're all out there circling, they're looking, they're waiting for the next new listing to hit the market. That's your backlog of buyers.
That's where they hit.
Yep. Absolutely.
So it's important, as you say, you better be ready. I heard ready, market ready day
market
one.
Ready,
you
day
better
one.
be ready, right?
As a buyer, you want to stack the odds in your favor if you can. I'd highly recommend you get with a great lender. Get totally qualified if you can. Go in there and do the full loan application. Just don't get pre-qualified. Go all the way. Get fully qualified if you can.
Fully qualified. You think?
Absolutely.
Does that make a difference when you're buying? I mean, does the seller care?
Absolutely. If you can go into an offer situation and say you're not just pre-qualified, you're fully qualified.
Fully qualified.
It could give you the edge over the 3 other buyers that come in and just say pre-qualified.
Because you're ready to
same price,
close
and you can anticipate that they're going to get through the financing contingencies.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right.
Yep.
Yeah, well, that's good. And what are the points? What are the price points you think the big ones? I mean, Medford, East Medford. Is it 2 to 3? What are the ranges that are really?
But definitely the hottest range for us, I think, across the market is 200 to 400,000. Is
2 to 400
is red hot. Different areas have different price points. Ashland is always about $100,000 higher in general than Medford, and Jacksonville probably follows that same pattern. It takes a little longer to sell there, though, because it's a smaller market, it's smaller pockets. Yeah. So you have to kind of judge the market based on what your home is and what the competition is.
It's amazing. East Medford is the real behemoth of the.
It's the big one
of the market here, isn't it? I mean, it's like they think in the course of the half year, it sold as many homes out of East Medford as Ashland and Central Point did combined, which is really interesting.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
there's something else that relates to price. When I talk to sellers, we talk about a price war and a beauty contest.
Okay.
You want to make sure your home is turnkey ready. If you're competing and you think that you're going to have a lot of other homes that you're competing with, buyers don't have a lot of power visualizations we like to think that they do. But when they come in, if they can feel like it's turnkey ready, that they could almost move in, you're going to have an advantage over other sellers.
I bet I absolutely would. And well, we'll see what happens with this. I mean, you got to be smart if you want to sell it. You can sell it, but you got to have the right price, or it's going to sit. I mean, there's still properties out there that have been on the market for a long, long time.
Yep.
And what's the reason?
Boy,
They're too high. I mean, it's why.
They got checked off by those pent-up buyers that just checked off them right at the first get-go and never came back, or probably found their property and never had a chance to circle back.
I think I saw a statistic where something like 60-some% of buyers drive by the properties first.
Yes.
Before they go look at them. I mean, I find myself doing that with clients and saying, here's the list. Here's what you wanted to look at. Drive by and see what you like before we go back and look. I see that a lot now, and they like that. So the house has got to look really. You got to have it ready, right? You got to drive by it.
Curb appeal.
Curb appeal.
Yeah, curb appeal. So, the one thing that can happen to us in the real estate industry, we take buyers out, we show them homes, and we pull up to a home, and the buyer says, "Oh my gosh, this thing's as ugly as sin. I don't want to see the inside."
Yeah.
A classic example of bad curb appeal.
Yeah, and you're not going to get a second look at a first appeal, first curb appeal anyway, right?
Austin across the street, we're going to list his house for his parents next week, was out with the chainsaw today.
There you go.
Cleaning up the
Curb
front so we
appeal.
can get good pictures.
Got to get it clean. The Real Estate Show. We're with Jim Remley from John L. Scott, the managing principal broker there on the real estate market today. We're going to take a quick break, and we're coming right back after this. More on the Real Estate Show here on KMED. Welcome to the Real Estate Show here on KMED, July 11th of 2015. Pete and Joe here with you. And hey, thanks for joining us here on this mid-July date. Next week, we'll be here. The Home Builders Association of Jackson County, Brad Bennington will be along. They're getting ready for their big shindig in September. They're not doing the home show, remember. They're doing a home tour. It'll be taking place in September, so we hope you'll join them for that. I love it. I've seen some of the homes that they're actually going to do, and they've done a great job with that. And that'll be one of their big fundraisers coming up in September. Jackson Soil and Water Conservation District, don't forget JSWCD is the address for their website. Don't forget the classes. We'll be signing up for those fall classes in terms of pasture management and all sorts of water classes and things. Check them out as well. Today, Jim Remley, the managing principal broker for John L. Scott, Southern Oregon, is with us here on the Real Estate Show. And we've been talking all sorts of things about the market around this county and Jackson County. And what we've learned today, we have a 2.3 month supply of inventory, which which is really low.
It's very low.
It is a seller's market, continues to be.
Yes, definitely.
But buyers and sellers have got to be ready. They got to be smart. Otherwise your house will sit there if it's not priced right.
It's got to be priced right.
And if you're not ready to buy, you're not going to get the house that you want.
So you got to be ready to act if you're a buyer and jump into the market. Don't be afraid of it. You're going to be competing with other buyers, so you got to be aggressive.
You really do.
Yeah. Tell
me about what the area rural properties. We talk a lot about them here with Jackson Soil and Water Conservation District. And so many people, a quarter of all sales, Jim, in Jackson County are rural sales.
Yeah, and we've seen a surge in that in the last 12 months.
It means to me that there's 500 new people are living in a rural property that weren't there a year ago.
Right.
Which means...
Well, I think there's a lot of drivers to rural properties. One of the drivers is, we got medical marijuana coming online.
Yeah. Legal marijuana.
Legal marijuana,
legal.
Not just the illegal, but the legal as well. But when you have people looking at what's happening in California with the droughts, we have a drought here, of course, in Oregon, but nothing compared to what's going on in California. I mean, I was just on I-5, drove by Shasta Lake. It's scary.
It's sad.
It's sad. It's scary. But the market still there is very robust. So if somebody can sell their home in California, we're the first over the border here in Southern Oregon. We have very similar climate in a lot of ways, but we have a lot more water. And they want to buy. First thing people think about when they move to Oregon is I want to be on rural property.
Right, absolutely.
Every time I sell a home to California, I want 5 acres. 2 years they sell it because they actually didn't want 5 acres, but they perceive they want 5 acres.
They haven't figured out that. Got to have a septic system and a well, and yet all sorts of other problems.
Right. But that's a driver too. The California market's been very, very robust.
Yeah, well, and they're going to continue to come here.
Absolutely.
And the pressure, I think, is going to continue. And the prices on rural properties are also, they're higher per average than any other segment of the market.
They are. They're up just from January to June. They're up 17.5%.
Yeah.
So even outpacing the rest of the market.
It's outpacing the other part of the market.
Yeah.
And I think it's the same thing true in Josephine County as well. That you see the same thing because of this. And I don't think there's any This is the interesting part of this whole thing. I don't think there's a let-up in sight. I don't see one.
No, I think that we're going to have a continuation of this market trend for a while now. The prices, I think, will moderate. I think that we'll get more inventory come online, and more sellers will enter the market, more builders will enter the market. We're not going to see double digits forever, but we're going to see a healthy market. We're going to see a robust market, a good, strong market cycle the next 5 to 7 years.
So the only thing really going to change that is that you just got to get more
supply.
More supply.
That's
because
it.
The demand's there. The demand is there.
Yeah, and first-time home buyers. One of the biggest demands that we're seeing too is household formation. What happened during the downturn is that people that were graduating college couldn't get a job. They were staying home longer.
Yeah.
A lot of people that lost their jobs came back and they started living with their parents again. So you had boomerang kids coming back. Now that they've got jobs again, we had 8 million jobs lost in the downturn. 12 million have been gained back now. So we're actually above where we're at. We got low unemployment again. In the country, not so much here in Oregon, but in the country we do. And what's happened is that household formation is beginning to occur again, and that means people are leaving their mom and dad's home again, going out renting, and then renters become buyers. So there's a lot of first-time home buyers in the market, which again puts pressure on supply.
Pressure on supply there, pressure on supply in the rental market as well.
Absolutely.
It's an interesting time. I mean, I don't see it changing, as you say, for a while.
I was talking to a good friend of mine, Danielle, at Sterling West Property Management. She told me that of their 300 units, they only had 1% vacancy right now. So extremely low vacancies in the market.
And that puts pressure on prices again, doesn't it?
For rentals, absolutely.
And it doesn't seem to be in the rental world that there's a lot of building going on in.
You're not seeing it here,
isn't it? Why? Why not here?
I wish they would. Across the country, we are starting. Multifamily is starting to be built. We're not seeing it as much here. I think that's something a builder should look at.
I would think that if you're an investor building and getting some property and building multiple units on them, gosh, because the demand is just going to be there. I would think for years. As you say, for years.
Yep.
Yeah. Before we get out of here, I want to ask you so much about technology. I mean, everybody's talking about this. You talked about tablets and this and all the kind of stuff. What do you think is the best way for a consumer to get the information that they need? John L. Scott's got some great stuff.
We do.
That's where people should go look for properties or the John L. Scott stuff? Tell me about that.
Well, John L. Scott's always been a leader in technology. We recognized across the country as a technology leader. Lennox Scott has been recognized as one of the top 25 innovators in the real estate industry many, many times across the country against every brokerage in the country. One of the things that he innovated was a cutting-edge real estate website before anybody else did. We had all of our listings available and accessible on there, and that was back in the 90s before anybody else was doing it.
Yeah.
We partnered with Microsoft. We're based in Seattle, so we're a Northwest family-owned company. Partnered with Microsoft, created the first polygon search, so you could go point to point to point in a neighborhood. But today, what our whole focus as a company is now mobile. We know that consumers are going mobile. We're absolutely dominating the mobile side of it. We're the first company in the Northwest to roll out a mobile app. We've had 155,000 downloads. We're on our third generation of the mobile app, and it is absolutely cutting edge.
I have to say, I use it when I'm in the field with clients. The John L. Scott mobile app for searching for maps where you're in the neighborhood is the best that I've ever found. I have to say, it really is good.
It's phenomenal. So if you are a consumer, you can just download jlsapp.com. Just go to jlsapp.com. Download it. It's free on your. I go to iTunes. You can see it there. You can go on the Play Google Store and see it there. Once you've downloaded it, it's a GPS enabled. So if you're sitting in front of any home, it doesn't have to be a John L. Scott listing.
Right.
You can see all the details about the listing. If you're connected with the John L. Scott agent, you push the heart button if you want to see it. We'll come out and show it to you.
Driving around looking for properties for clients. That's the best app to use because it'll just direct you everywhere you want to go. Right in your map on your iPhone or your phone. Yeah.
Today, consumers, we call them IECs. They're internet-empowered consumers. It's a whole different world in that they can actually get almost every bit of information about these homes in the palm of their hand at any given time.
And that's what you have to do to keep in today's market up with that's why you got to be you're going to be successful when you do that.
Absolutely. A good realtor will help you interpret all that information and give you some guidance and act as your consultant to deal with all that information.
Well, johnlscott.com is the website also where you can get all the listings and of course the individual websites so that you can catch all the John L. Scott agents, everything else on there too, can't you? It's a great resource that if you're in the home buying or selling world, that's what you really need to have. Jim Remley, thanks for being with us today.
It's an honor.
There's so many things to talk about, and we're just scratching that surface today. But we'll be back with us in a few weeks, and we'll do it again, all right?
Sounds good.
That'll do it for the Real Estate Show here, July 11th of 2015. Thanks for being with us. Don't forget, this show will be on YouTube or at realestateshoworegon.com.
You've been listening to the
Have
Real
a great
Estate
week.
Show on KMED AM and FM radio, presented by John L. Scott Real Estate of Southern Oregon, along with all cities Property Management, the Home Builders Association of Jackson County, Ditech Mortgage, the Jackson Soil and Water Conservation District, and the Rogue Valley Association of Realtors. For guest information or to watch a past show, visit us online at realestateshoworegon.com. Join us again next weekend for Southern Oregon's one and only real estate show on KMED.